Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome. Oh, another author talk, and it's so great to see so many familiar faces and names. And I'm so glad to be here with you guys tonight. Tonight for Detroit, but for some of you, it's still the afternoon. And I think there's at least one person in the room who's in Europe, so it's very late at night. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. Um, so we're going to wait about a minute before we get started, and we're going to have a really great conversation about sister stories and give away some books at the end of all this. So settle in and get ready and have your questions ready because we want to for sure.
I'm seeing some of my early bird friends, Janet and Lorraine. We have a writing session that starts at 5 a.m. my time, 365 days a year.
No, you do not. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah.
impressed.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they're up a little later than me.
Yeah, I have 8 a.m., so I can't take that kind of credit from you.
But every single day, you guys, hats
Yeah.
off. That's pretty amazing.
Hope we haven't missed a day. And I mean, I think I've been doing it for over 5 years, and I was maybe a couple years after they started her year.
Wow.
So yeah.
Let's get started. Welcome everybody. I'm Lynne Golodner, and I host author talks at a rate of about two a month. And it's a lot of fun to be in conversation with a fellow author about something our books have in common, and to have all of you here to talk about fiction, talk about writing and publishing. So we definitely are excited for your questions. So tonight, Catherine and I are going to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about our books and our writing process. Then we'll open it up to questions from you. And at the end, we will each give away a book to a lucky winner. So please stick around till the end. You have to still be here on the call at the end for the giveaway, and we'll get your address and either mail you a copy or send you an ebook, whatever you prefer. So let's jump in. Catherine, do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is Catherine Matthews, and I am a former teacher, high school principal, and district administrator who, um, started writing, oh gosh, more than a decade ago. And my passion just turned into novels. And so I write women's fiction suspense, Releasing the Reins and Roadside Sisters. And both are women's fiction. And I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm Lynne Golodner. I'm based in Detroit, and I've been writing since I was six. But I had eight books published between 1996 and 2013. I did a journalism degree and then an MFA in poetry. So I had two poetry collections and six nonfiction books. But they were always on the side to what my real work was, which was journalism, and then it became marketing and PR. And I kept saying if I think I'm a writer, but it's not really what I do primarily, am I really a writer? And so my midlife crisis was just get serious about writing fiction. And so I started that about 6 or 7 years ago. And in that time, I have formed my own imprint, Scotia Road Books. I have published four of my own books, three novels and one essay collection. And I have a fourth novel coming out in October. And I just finished the first draft on number five last week. So I'm going at a rate of about a book a year and having a really fun time. So glad to be here. All right. So first of all, we have to congratulate Catherine because we just found out today that Roadside Sisters is a finalist in the WFWA Star Award 2026. So yay,
Oh,
bravo.
thank you.
How does that
Yeah, I was.
feel?
Yeah, I'm thrilled. It's funny. I did not know this. I was at the doctor's office getting my pneumonia shot because I'm apparently old, and and I saw the text come across and just like yelped. So scared everybody, but yeah, I'm thrilled.
Well, why don't we start with that, with Roadside Sisters? Let's talk a little bit about what inspired this book. And tell just a little bit, not to give away any spoilers, but we're talking about sister stories. So let's hear what inspired it and maybe a little bit about what it is.
Yeah. So I started working on Roadside Sisters in my head on a road trip through Alabama. So my youngest sister lives in North Georgia, and we often do road trips together, and we think we're hilarious. So during the toward the end of the pandemic, um, I was really missing her a lot, and I just decided to put a mask on and fly to Georgia. And the problem is that nothing was open, nothing at all. And so, really, all we could do is sort of drive around and look at roadside attractions, something that she really likes. Like, I have literally seen the largest wine bottle and the smallest chair and everything else. So we went to Calhoun, Georgia, and there's this rock garden in Calhoun, Georgia. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, but as part of their meditative spiritual practice, the members have taken tiny little smooth rocks, and in this acre garden, they have recreated Notre Dame, the Colosseum, Jerusalem, Bethlehem. I mean, it's just the most amazing thing. So as we're driving around, my sister says, you know, what you really need to do is write a book about sisters on a road trip. And it would be hilarious because we're hilarious. And you could, we could talk about how, these roadside attractions are so disappointing and it's sort of like life. So I loved the idea and I was thinking about it. And then I remembered this weekend when my father was dying, where all of my sisters had gotten together and looked at these old pictures that my mom had. And as we were looking through these pictures, I realized that some of the things that I remembered about my childhood might have not been completely accurate. Um, and it really challenged my thinking about our relationships, and we were really going through a lot. And so those two things kind of like merged together. And this book kind of became the journey of exploring, what can we forgive in ourselves? What can we forgive in each other? What does it mean to be part of a sisterhood or feel left out of one? Yeah, so Roadside Sisters is the story of three sisters, not autobiographical, certainly by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the sisters is trying to reunite the other two. And she does it by sort of tricking them into retaking the last road trip they took as a family before the family broke apart. Unfortunately, she has no idea why they haven't spoken, why they don't have a relationship. And so, if you stick two women in a car for 1,300 miles, lots of conversations are going to happen. So, this is
Oh,
sort of the story of this relationship between the three sisters and how they come to think about the sisterhood and forgiveness, not just of each other, but of themselves.
it's a fabulous book. I really enjoyed reading it. And actually, I recommended it last night to my mom for her book club.
Oh, thank
'Cause
you.
yeah, her book club loves that I come to speak live to them about my books. And they said, well, there must be other authors who could come live.
Oh,
And my mom said, yeah, but do they have books that I want to read? And I said, well, I have lots of author friends. They're not all in Michigan, but I can recommend them. And actually, I mentioned Annie Catherine's new book, Eat the Cake, and I mentioned
mhm.
yours. And I said, they could come on Zoom and talk to your group, I'm sure, And anyway, so it's interesting because as I'm thinking about my novels and sisters, my first novel, Woman of Valor, the protagonist, Sally, has sisters, but they're estranged. And in
Mhm.
Cave of Secrets, Eve is a an only child, but Mac, her love interest in Scotland, has three siblings, and he's actually very close with one sister, but that's a brother-sister situation.
Mhm.
And in I Love You, Charlie Tanner, which we're mostly talking about tonight, which came out almost a year ago,
Yeah.
um, there's an estranged sisterhood that reconciles by the end of the book, but the family relationships and the choices that each person makes really impact the main character, Charlie, as she sort of, reflects on everything and sees the choices she made and how it impacted the family, and they learn a lot. Sort of like in Roadside Sisters, the way that she and her sister sort of excavate what happened
Mhm.
in the years that they were distant.
Right.
They both had very different experiences, and so it's funny. I mean, I have a sister and a brother. I'm the oldest, and I do think that sibling relationships are huge fodder for writing, and
Hmm.
they are so impactful and influential on all of us. You know, whether
Hmm.
you have a sibling or you don't, and where you
Right.
are, birth order, and all that. I think there's a lot to mine for writing characters. You know,
Yeah,
what do you
absolutely.
think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's interesting that the character in Charlie Tanner, the sister, really one of the things that it made me think of in terms of my book is just, you know, sometimes siblings will hold back information and it's not intended to be hurtful, but it's intended to be sort of protective. Like, I don't want to speak my truth if it's going to hurt you. And so sometimes that results in the actual estrangement, right? So there was a lot that Charlie's sister had to say to her that she didn't really think of. And of course, once we do hear that and we do process it, we own what is ours and we, let go of some things, and there's lots of healing.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think that relationship, and I think the other thing is, I don't know your sibling order, but I'm one of four, and I'm second.
okay.
And three of us are very close together, and one is a little bit younger. And, we forget that nobody has the same parents,
So
you
true.
know?
Yeah, yeah,
So your experience and what you think of what your sister, or what I think about what my sister went through, or how she interpreted it,
yeah,
might be completely erroneous, which made it a real challenge to write this book because I had to kind of be in three different people's heads
yeah,
completely.
yeah. I think when I was writing Charlie, the sister relationship was very secondary to everything
Hmm.
else. And after my first novel, I really forced myself to plot because I pantsed that
Hmm.
one and I had so many holes and had to go back so many times. So with my subsequent books, I spend a lot of time
Hmm.
planning and then doing character sketches to try to figure out like who are they and what's their family and how does that impact them. And it always amazes me how the story takes a turn I didn't expect. And there
Yes.
are other characters I didn't see coming. And so midway through, I
Hmm.
have to figure out who they are and what the impact is. And so Charlie's sister relationship was sort of like an afterthought that I then had to spend time on, but it became, I think, really important toward the end of the
Yes.
story. It's interesting because when I started writing this book, I all I knew was that I wanted a middle-aged protagonist, so she's 40, and because so many novels have very young protagonists, and I'm like, and I'm in my 50s, and I'm like, I want to see characters that are a little closer to my age, um, and and I wanted a middle-aged protagonist who lost a great love, and she
Hmm.
processed her grief in the garden because I love my garden so much, and I'm
Right.
a little urban farmer, and I also wanted her to find second love with a hot rabbi. Those were the things I knew. That was really
Hmm.
it. I didn't anticipate the cult. I didn't anticipate, the murder. I didn't anticipate any of that. Were there surprises like that for you when you were writing Roadside?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of it had to do with those secondary characters.
Yeah.
I know you talk about the sister as a secondary character. Um, there's a there's a scene where they have a flat tire, and an older man who works at a gas station wants to help Scotty change it. And I that scene was not at all in the plan, not
Oh,
at all.
interesting.
But I realized we had to understand better how Scotty felt about being a sense of powerlessness and her need to take care of things on her own, which really kind of played into that sister relationship, and kind of kept those two girls apart because she didn't want to need people or be needy.
Yeah.
But the other thing is she'd just been hiding. that injury for so long, mainly because she didn't want to make her father feel guilty about it. But it also becomes part of the challenge with Penelope because her belief about how Penelope sees that injury
Yeah.
and the reality are so different. And so the scene in this gas station sort of illuminates what's going to happen there. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like you. I pantsed the first one and then I spent like a whole year fixing all the disasters,
Yes. Yeah.
like re-gluing it back together, right? And so this one, I spent literally 4 months doing nothing but plotting.
Okay.
But I still allow the characters and what's happening to evolve.
Yeah.
In fact, it's sort of a joke with my daughter. I'll text her and go, "Oh my God, you won't believe what this character did today." And she's like, aren't you the character? Like, aren't you in charge here?
Control.
What's going
Yeah.
on?"
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
really true.
it's funny because I told you I just finished writing the first draft of my fifth novel, and I about two-thirds of the way through, the characters sort of diverged from the plan, and I'm like,
Hmm.
wait, you can't go there. Like this is
Yeah.
not the plan. But I know better by now than to
Yeah.
argue with them, and so I'm like, well, let's just be curious. Let's see where they take me and how this is going to end up. And what's interesting is that in this book, the main it's a romance, and the love interest, the male character, has three brothers, and so at the end, one of the brothers and his fiance become these important characters who were so secondary in my
Hmm.
plans. And I'm like, I spent all this time like researching, well, who are they? And
Right.
there's whatever. So it's just very interesting. And I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. So yeah,
Yeah.
the characters do assert themselves for sure.
It must be interesting writing brothers. In the novel I'm working on right now, there are twins, and it's a boy and a girl.
Okay.
Um, but I just feel like sister relationships, whether we're talking about biological sisters or just the general sisterhood,
Yeah.
I just think they're so rich and complicated and beautiful. Um, I don't know if I could write brothers, so I think that's just fascinating. I'll be curious to know as you go forward how you saw that differently.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. Because I have a sister and a brother, there was sort of, it wasn't just one gender of siblings. And I'm the mom of four, two girls, two boys. So I see the brothers and I see the sisters in my
Okay.
family. And they're very different. It's really very
Hmm.
interesting. You know, in my first novel, Woman of Valor, the Sally has a best friend who becomes like a sister. And I think
Hmm.
as you say the word sisterhood, that's really important. And so friendships can be, an important, almost like a sister relationship in fiction.
Sure.
And I think
Absolutely.
a lot of times that whether it's a sister or a friend, they're almost like a mirror for the protagonist to like show their
Yes.
true self, their
Hmm.
flaws, their
Hmm.
questions, things like
Hmm.
that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I see that as like the truth and grace person.
Uh-huh.
And Mary in Charlie is
Yes.
that, she's so different from Charlie, has
Yes.
such a different experience, cares about her deeply, even though she might show it in a different way than Charlie would.
Yeah.
Um, but she's definitely truth and grace. Like she's very loving and compassionate, but she is not going to hold anything back.
Right.
And if you think about that compared to Charlie's sister, who is essentially holding everything back until it explodes,
Right.
it really shows the spectrum of what can happen in relationships.
And in a family. I mean, even
Yeah.
though Mary is her friend and not her sister,
Hmm.
she needs that. It's a balance, of
Right.
energies. It's interesting because my novel that's coming out in October, it's called Two Lifetimes, and it's about friendship, but it's
Hmm.
almost like they're sisters. And I think sometimes we choose a soul sister that's different from our family in some way. I mean, my best friend feels like family to me.
Right.
So that's also something to
Right.
really probe in fiction too, I think, the
Yeah,
friendships. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, in my first book, which is Releasing the Reins, which is women's fiction suspense,
Uh-huh.
the main character is a woman named Bunny O'Kelly, and um, she has brothers, grows up on a dairy farm in Washington, and it's all she's ever wanted to do,
Yeah.
right? And one day her dad announces he's going to retire and he gives the farm to her brothers. And so she storms off to Alaska to prove herself as a ranch hand. And
Uh-huh.
but the story is a lot about belonging. Can we find a place where we belong as our authentic self?
Uh-huh.
And if we find it, sort of what would we risk to keep it? And for Bunny, she's really missing out on the sisterhood because she feels such a need to make sure people know she's going to be the kind of woman she wants to be, that she forgets people will accept her for that, right? And so kind of developing those um, relationships with other women becomes part of the story.
Yeah.
That's sort of like there's a million ways to be a woman, and half the people who have an attitude or a opinion about that really have no business having an opinion.
Yeah.
And all of those ways are right.
Yes.
Like it doesn't matter how you define the right way to be a woman is the right way.
And I think in fiction, not just siblings, but friends, like we're talking about,
Hmm.
secondary characters, those interpersonal relationships help to show the reader who the protagonist really is, or
Yes.
protagonists, like those, they're like a foil for like bringing out the depth of character.
Hmm.
And I wonder, did you have any surprises in either of your books with a secondary character who ended up being important in that way that you didn't see coming?
Yeah, I think in both. In Releasing the Reins, there's a character named Carolina, and she's the exact opposite of Bunny. She's sort of a lithe, blonde, proper girl. And her interaction with Bunny, she's very open and welcoming, and Bunny misunderstands it. But there's a point at which Carolina points out, you are judging me basically the same way that you feel everybody else judges you,
Yeah.
you know? And that is a really important moment for Bunny and her character to transform. And in Roadside Sisters, um, one of the sisters, it's a very devout Catholic family, and so one of the sisters is a lesbian, and she has never felt that she could share that part of herself with her family. Like she sort of lives that part in private, and it's doesn't want to be judged. But the person that she's in love with loves her deeply, but not in that way. And so that secondary character sort of grounds um, grounds her, grounds Molly, but also shows the acceptance,
Yeah.
like I love you as you are. I love
Yes.
you
Yes.
completely, unconditionally, and you probably could get that from your family too, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it becomes a kind of an important light that gets shined on Molly and how she feels, because throughout the whole book, she is sort of trying to get her sisters to admit what they've held back and what they haven't told, that is keeping them apart
Yes.
without being honest about the fact that she's held a lot back from them too,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think in Charlie Tanner, Bowden, her friend from the commune or the cult, um, fills in where she's lacking in her relationship.
Yes.
He sees her, they become sort of thick as thieves type of thing. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I think that both of these books are books of healing and
Mm.
trying to understand yourself and in a context of a family. Um, and the second chances, really. I mean, in a lot of ways, both books are
Very
that too.
much.
So I want to take some questions from our audience, but I want to ask you one last question about what's next for you? What are you working on, or what's next in your author journey that we can tease everybody with?
Yeah, so I'm writing the sequel to Releasing the Reins, which is called Termination Dust.
Ooh,
And it's set in Alaska as well. And it picks up where Releasing the Reins ends with one of the main characters whose mother has been missing for about 10 years. And it's the kind of journey of him and his twin sister to find out what happened to their mother. And it's also a very much a story of healing, you know. Um, when a parent disappears, we never know if it's because of us or, because of something that happened to them. And either outcome is very hard.
yeah,
But because it becomes something that defines us, we can't really move on until we solve it.
for sure.
So if you're not familiar, termination dust, is anybody familiar? It refers to the dusting of snow on the Chugach Mountains in Alaska, and it signals sort of the coming winter.
Okay.
And it's, like you've got 6 weeks, so pack it up, get ready to go back to the lower 48 or chop some wood.
Uh-huh.
I went to the University of Alaska Fairbanks, by the way.
Oh,
So,
I was wondering. That's my question.
yeah,
Why Alaska?
I probably should have mentioned, yeah.
So I have
But
to ask.
it,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, but it is an often misunderstood sign. So a lot of people, they see the dusting of snow and they go, okay, it's time to pack it up and move on. And the truth is that, you get that dusting of snow kind of year round and it has to last a certain amount of time. So it's all about false signs that we act on and make big life decisions on that really aren't the right signs to be watching.
What a
Yeah.
great phrase. I love that. So I have to ask a follow-up question, which is, did you intend for Releasing the Reins to spark a series, or did it just come to you after?
I did not intend this to spark a series, but just, sort of what you were saying before about you find these secondary characters and then you start writing their whole life story because you need to understand their motivation and what they're going to bring to the table. And when I did that, I had like 7 characters that I was deeply in love with.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh no, now we have to find out what happened to Jeremiah's mom. And then, why is the barmaid, the waitress, so awkward, and so her book is going to be after that. And yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
all the secrets that everybody has held. Yeah, I
Well,
like family
yeah.
secrets.
If there's anything I've learned in book marketing is that series are really helpful because when people like it, they want to buy subsequent books. And I had started with Woman of Valor. I envisioned it as a 3-book series, and I wrote the second book twice, and I don't like either version. So it's like literally printed out and sitting in a drawer. And I just hope one day I can somehow make it publishable because all that effort went into those books. But
Yeah.
so Woman of Valor, Cave of Secrets, Charlie Tanner, all standalones. And then my book coming out in October, Two Lifetimes, is also a standalone friendship novel, dual timeline where there's two women in present day in West Michigan who are best friends, a Jewish woman and a Catholic woman. And an anti-Semitic incident happens on the first night of Hanukkah, and it triggers memories of something that the Catholic woman has never lived through. But it turns out their souls were connected in a former life, and then you see the former life timeline and story of those two characters, and eventually you realize that they're one and the same. So I'm very excited about that book. It's totally different than what I've written so far.
Oh, wow.
Lots of sex in my first 3 books, and not in this one, obviously. But the fifth one it's a tennis hockey romance set in the 1980s. So that has been really fun to write. I needed something light and
Yeah.
nostalgic after writing the heavier book. So, but the heavier book is actually a beautiful book, and I always say at the end, if I make myself cry when I'm reading through it, then I
Oh,
did.
yeah.
So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
did. So that's good.
There's 3 chapters at the end of Roadside Sisters that are motivated by a letter that Molly writes each of her sisters. And it's funny because I think it was the kind of roadblock in my thinking because I put the letters in the first chapter and then I never wrote them.
Oh,
And so I finished the whole book and I put the book aside and then I was like, oh my God, I never wrote the letters. Like that's such an important thing. So I write these letters and I cried for 3 chapters while I was writing. My husband's like, what is going on in there? I'm just bawling my eyes out. And then every time I edit it, I cried.
yep.
So it's just really emotional. And I would say that book in the drawer, that's going to happen to you because what I know is when something doesn't feel complete or right, it's just like not yet there.
Yeah,
It's because there's something you already know that just hasn't bubbled to the surface that's going to make it amazing,
I hope you're right.
It'll happen.
Well, you did make me cry at the end of Roadside Sisters. I definitely sat there with tears trailing down. And every time I read I Love You, Charlie Tanner to edit, and then when I did the audiobook myself, I'm like, wait, you can't cry when you're narrating an
Yeah,
audiobook. Like, this doesn't sound good on,
right.
recording. So I'm like, okay, just read it, but yeah, it's good when we can elicit that reaction in ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
So, shall we open it up to questions to see what people
Yeah.
would like to know? And then we'll give away a book at the end of this. So, please do stick around. So, Lisa asked in the chat, your titles are magnetic. How do you come up with them? Do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, Roadside Sisters was really easy because I we were taught when I first started, it was really going to be about like seeing these roadside attractions and having them be sort of a metaphor for their relationship. But as it morphed, I realized that the story is really about these girls sort of feeling left on the side of the road by their parents and that, event kind of separating them into adulthood. And so discovering each other on the side of the road, which happens a couple of times during the book. Um, Releasing the Reins is sort of funny because I originally, the title was Becoming Benny
Hmm.
because the woman's name is Benjamina, and she doesn't like being called Bunny because her brothers gave her that nickname, but she comes to accept it.
Uh-huh.
And so it's sort of the whole acceptance metaphor, right? But somebody was reading it and said, I was really disappointed because I thought you were writing a book about somebody who was transgendered. Like I wasn't prepared for it to not have any of that in there. And so I thought, oh, well, that's going to be very confusing for readers. So we, Releasing the Reins, I sat down as a much better title. Releasing the Reins refers to when you're riding a horse and your body is in tune with the horse's body and you don't have to control it by yanking its head around or working its mouth, and you just can release the reins and trust that your body will move in motion with the horse.
Hmm.
So I
Perfect.
did that because that is really what happens to Bunny, is that she learns to trust herself and others around her
That's,
and can release that fight that she has to prove who she is.
that's great. For me, and thank you for the question, Lisa. Woman of valor in Hebrew is Eshet Chayil, and it's a psalm that a lot of religious husbands sing to their wives on Friday night. But woman of valor is also a term that has military connotations, strength, valor. And so I liked the double entendre there that Sally is a woman of strength, especially with what happens. There's some things that happen in her community that challenge her faith and her marriage. Um, and she both is committed to her faith as well as to herself and her family. And so I liked that, the double meaning. Cave of Secrets was easy. It's literally letters found in a cave that have secrets, ancestral secrets that Eve, who's an archivist, really excavates throughout the book. But there's so many secrets that the characters in Cave of Secrets are holding. So that was that. And I Love You, Charlie Tanner. I mean, I could not think of a title for this book. And I just kept really thinking and thinking and thinking. And I said, that's all I can come up with. And then I realized it's actually her telling herself, like, I love who I am after all of my mistakes. But she also finds love for who she is, as opposed to in a controlling or abusive relationship. So I like that there people have said to me, is it her telling that to herself or is it that she finds love with someone else? Um, and Two Lifetimes was really hard to come up with too. I had so many different titles, and my cover designers were working on. They just finished the cover like yesterday, and they were working on it. And I actually all of a sudden had a crisis of faith in the title, and I started emailing a lot of friends saying, "What do you think the title should be?" And I still ended up with Two Lifetimes. So that was a hard one too. But yeah, so titles they matter, and sometimes they're easy, and sometimes they're not. You know. We have a question from Annie. How did birth order play into your books? You want to take
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Oh, that did tremendously. Yeah, I'm a second born. I wrote an article when it first came out, a second book by a second born about a second born. Um,
Love that.
um, yeah, it played in a lot. I think the sisters really show those roles, very much so. I
Uh-huh.
think the one difference is that the youngest daughter, Scotty, she is raised in part separate from her sisters with their father. And so, in a sense, gets the experience of being that only child with the spotlight, sort of firstborn. And that comes through in her character for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, for me, birth order, I mean, Charlie is the younger of the two. And I think that really affected why she made the choices she did, why she made a lot of mistakes in her life. But her parents really hold a candle for her when she has left the family. I think because she's the baby, and you know, I'm the oldest of three, and so independent, fierce, strong personality. So my female protagonists have very strong personalities, and they're also kind of impulsive, which I don't love, but I'm trying to get rein them in as I write more characters. But you know, it's interesting because I mean, Sally in Woman of Valor is she has two sisters, but she's alienated from them, and Eve is an only child, and Charlie, you know, she's alienated until she reconciles. Um, so that's interesting too. And yeah, so I think I have a lot of fierce, independent characters who are struggling with who they are, probably because I'm a firstborn, and that's par for the course, right?
Yeah.
Um, Molly Ann Blumenthal, you asked, do we believe in past lives? I do, and that's really why I wrote Two Lifetimes. It's funny. I really base it on my friendship with my best friend, who is Catholic and I'm Jewish. And I believe in a former life she was Jewish. I call her Rabbi Katie all the time. She knows more about Judaism than a lot of Jewish people. And I think I was Catholic in a former lifetime. And so it's two lifetimes, and these characters have soul journeys. So I do believe that. I don't know if you do, Catherine. Do you believe in past lives and multiple lives?
I don't know that I believe in past lives, but I do believe in soul journeys. And I think well, maybe the way I see it that's slightly different is that I feel like I can more feel the presence of ancestors.
Mm,
Like I very much feel the presence of my father and my grandfather still with me. Um, yeah, I think that's more how I see it.
yeah. I mean, in my books, ancestry plays a huge part, you know,
Oh,
so
me too. Yeah,
where do characters come from? And that informs so much of their identity and legacy, and
absolutely.
really in all my books, whether they're escaping it or they're building on it or turning to it for inspiration. The interweaving of generations is really, it's something that I'm fascinated by, for sure.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's really powerful. We carry with us all the stories, and um, I think, especially in Releasing the Reins and Termination Dust, because they're dual timeline books, but also in Roadside Sisters because the women are very much affected by the stories that they're told and by the decisions that their parents made based on their parents. And we don't always understand that, right? We don't always understand what has come before that has motivated something, right? And where we're young, we don't understand anything. We think everything's about us. And, you know, anything bad somehow magically had to do with us or good or whatever, and we forget that our parents have full and whole lives and that those evolve and have their own challenges.
In both
Yeah.
of these books, I think the characters carry these stories that they've told themselves about
Yes.
childhood and about themselves based on their childhood
Mhm.
relationships. And they're all slightly shades of the truth and shades of false, story. And I think it's in both of these books. Like we can't
Absolutely.
overcome the burden of the stories we carry with us until we understand the full picture, which hopefully
Yeah.
you get a chance to see.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And just going back to, sort of the spark for this book, I remember the night that I saw a picture of me with one of my sisters, and it was at a birthday party. And I'm holding her hand and I'm just looking at her so adoringly.
Mm.
And, as I thought about our relationship,
Mhm.
you know, I, I disregard, I don't know, I think you look for confirming evidence of what you believe, right?
Yeah,
And when you have something in black and white like that, you're like, oh, if this memory's not accurate, I wonder how many more aren't either. And maybe I should explore this. And that's what keeps people apart, right?
yeah,
The stories that we tell, the confirming evidence of what happened to us that we continue to pile on,
yeah.
and letting go of that's a really healthy thing. I have to say one of the best reviews I got was right when the book was coming out, and a woman wrote, I haven't talked to my sister in 6 years, and after I finished this book, I called her on the phone.
Oh, that's
And
so
I was like,
wow.
yeah, that's mic drop. That's like I don't need to sell another book. It's that's such a good review.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Janet is asking how your sisters responded to Roadside Sisters.
Oh yeah. My sisters are really, really supportive, and I try to write really courageously. So, my books are not autobiographical, but there are things that happen in each of the books that happen to me. For example, I have a pretty serious back injury, for example, that has sort of plagued me. And when those things come up where it's something that they know about me, I know that they feel pain for me, or and they're also seeing it from my eyes for the first time because maybe we haven't talked about it, right?
Yeah,
But the stories, they know they're not the story. Like they know the story is not about them. And in fact, in Roadside Sisters, I kind of see the sisters as different phases of my own life, how I felt in different phases of my own life, like
yeah,
when I was a really high pressure school administrator, and, when I wanted to be separate from my family, or when I wanted to be a part of my family, or whatever. Um, but yeah, they're very supportive. In fact, my oldest, I wouldn't be a writer if my older sister had not said one thing to me. And that was when I first started writing, I had been writing a blog. So I was doing photography for my daughter's rowing team, and I started to sell these photographs that I took on the river. And so I put a website up, and I couldn't get rid of the blog. So then I decided, well, I guess I'm going to write a blog. So I started writing this blog, and then my father has a stroke, and he's dying, and he's a super important part of my life. So this blog morphs into the things that I learned from my father and lessons in life. And, it's just become this thing that's very vulnerable and something that is total was would not have been possible if my father hadn't been dying, right? Because I was a high school principal, and believe me, you do not emote. You lock it down, right? You got 1,500 teenagers. You gotta have control of your emotions, right?
yeah, yeah.
So my oldest sister, wrote me a note. We were on a trip and she said, I want to talk to you because I think your writing is really amazing and you should quit taking pictures and take this seriously and write.
That's great.
And yeah, until that point, it was sort of a lark that I was writing this blog so that I could not have a empty website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. By the way, my oldest son, who's the high school math teacher, he rowed. So I was a rowing parent for a while too.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very small world. All these things that
Yeah. 3 a.m. on a lake.
I know. Yeah, actually, a lot of stories we could share for sure. Other questions? Anybody? And you can also unmute to ask the question, and not just in the chat if you would like to. If there's anybody else. Anyone? All right. Well, maybe we should give away some free books. Okay, so I will be picking from among the people who are here for Roadside Sisters, and our winner is Irina Vaindiner. Is that how I pronounce your name, Irina?
Yes, thank you. Wow.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wonderful.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I
So
will,
Irina, do you want to put in the chat to Catherine your address or which format of the book you would like to receive? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Then we'll have somebody who's going to win I Love You, Charlie Tanner. And this winner is spinning the wheel of luck. Merlisa Lawrence Corbett. Merlisa, where are you?
I'm here. Hey.
Hey, awesome. So we have our winners. So Merlisa, if you could let me know what format you'd like to receive. I can send you audio, ebook, or paperback, whichever way you'd like, and I'll need your address if it's the paperback.
I'll probably do ebook.
Oh, great. Okay, so I will be in touch to get all the info from you, and I'll send that
Thank
your
you.
way. Yeah, wonderful. So congratulations to Irina and Merlisa. And this has been great. I'm so glad, Catherine, that you took the time to chat with me for this author
Yeah,
talk.
thank you for having me.
Thank you for everybody who came. And just to let you know, I'm actually leaving for a lifelong dream come true trip to Africa next week. So there won't be author talks again until the fall, but the first one will be September 2nd, and then we'll have a full schedule. And I will make sure that you guys are on the list so you know when they are and who the authors are. I'm going to be hosting the US launch of my friend Jane Doucette's new novel. It's a crime fiction, I think. She's a Halifax, Canada writer. So
Wow.
her book releases in the US on September 2nd. So we're going to do an author talk, and then we'll have more already booking into next year, which is really, really cool. So yes, thank you everyone for being here. If you know great authors who have stories to share and they might want to be on an author talk, let me know. But thank you all for being here, Catherine, for writing an amazing book. And congrats again on the finalist nod from WFWA.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we will see you guys again soon. All right. Thanks. Bye.